See, we've heard the politicians speak, and we've heard the vision statements from key ministers in the UP government. So I wanted to kind of bring this together, some of the tie up the threads of this a little bit together, and start with you, Sunil ji, if I can. I know you've spoken a little. Sushil, sorry, my bad on that. So you have, you already had a chat with Chandra earlier in the evening. I wanted to ask you to to explain a little bit more. See, a lot of people, when they think about semiconductors, electronics, and what's happening in the country, people know something big is happening, but a lot of people don't understand the details. So you've been driving this from the central government's end with a whole bunch of people at the ministry and for over 2 years now. What does the direction mean to you from the minister and from the prime minister? What is the vision that you see at the central government end?
The direction has been, first of all, to create as much domestic capacity as we can. As I stated earlier as well, the government believes that this industry is purely a foundational industry and we need to create as much capability as we can. But at the same time, we also need to keep in mind that no country can actually become self-sufficient in this electronic sector. It's a very complex supply chain. It's something, I don't think there is no industry like this which having such a complex supply chain which goes into layers and layers. And no country in the world is actually, they can call themselves to be self-sufficient in terms of, in terms of all technology across all the supply chain. However, we must become self-reliant, that we are actually self-sufficient in at least the critical technologies, and at the same time we ought to make sure that whatever supply chain we depend on, those are highly diversified. I think they're not in the concentrated geographies that we are left at the mercy or at a free will of any country to choke our supply chain. So that's the broad vision. So we have to be very selective in terms of which areas we pick to create our own, to become more reliant and become more self-sufficient.
So let me bring in Anurag Yadav, the Principal Secretary for IT and Electronics in the government of Uttar Pradesh. See, Uttar Pradesh is one of the 5 or 6 states where semiconductor investments are coming in as part of the larger national semiconductor mission. So when you look at the state of Uttar Pradesh, both for electronics and semiconductors, when you look at, say, other states like Karnataka, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Maharashtra, in your view, how does Uttar Pradesh distinguish itself? How does it sort of become more competitive? What are the things that you are doing for Uttar Pradesh to stand out in competition to other states?
Okay, I found this question being asked to almost everyone from UP, how you are competitive. So UP need not be competitive, if I have to say. I mean, with the 25 crore population of a state, I may compete with the nations, not with the state. I mean, you look at the standards, but coming to the point, I mean, obviously, just not to boast about the size of the population, it's a healthy thing amongst the state, I must say. And it's not that we are competing with each other. In fact, what we are competing is what is best for India. So each state puts forward not a competition against each other, but a competition for racing towards taking the country forward. So when you look at the semiconductor mission, primarily the driving seat has been ministry with Indian semiconductor mission. And states do pitch in to supplement whatever has been there on the plate with the ministry. So we have been supporting that. But if you look at how the mission is working from end to end, what kind of critical technologies are being approved, what kind of plants are being approved, in what region they are being approved, all these have probably a plan. It's not just that somebody is competing and getting it in that state. So if you ask me as a person from the state of UP, I would say that rather than putting this question of competition amongst the state, we should see it as India competing at global stage now. And we have reached to that stage where we have to see all states. So some advantages are there. Let's say for example, my southern brothers who are in Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, they have certain advantages. Those advantages are maybe because of the location, because of being on the coast. But Noida could have another advantage of being near capital. I mean, it's as simple as that. That Jewar Airport being on the corridor of every you would say, if you look at industrial hub or manufacturing hub of the country, Punjab, Haryana, when you see the north-south corridor, east-west corridor, you will find how Jewar is emerging as the new place for all kind of economic activity. So every state has its own potential, has its own strength, uniquely, I would say, placed, rather than competing with each other. Probably we are complementing each other's strength, and that is how we are taking the country forward under the able leadership of center and state.
Right. We've heard from the central government and the state government. Let me bring in both the industry and the industry bodies. We have Mr. Rajesh Agarwal, co-founder of Micromax and Bhagwati Products, joining us from Chennai. He was to be here in person, but I think he got delayed with a couple of legal issues there. So thank you very much for taking the time, Mr. Agarwal, for joining us online. You've heard the Principal Secretary for IT and Electronics. You have large investments in UP. There's a lot of manufacturing going on in UP on electronics. About 50-55% of mobile phones in India are now manufactured in this state. What has your experience been as an investor, as a promoter, managing projects in UP? If you can tell us about your journey and your perspective a little bit on how Uttar Pradesh looks to you as an investment destination.
Now, this is a very, very important question as far as the industry and the country is concerned. We are there in many states, including Telangana, Rajasthan, Uttarakhand, UP. As far as the experience in the UP is concerned, it is very, very good. We are there in UP for last 1.5 years, and we have around 10,000 people working with us in Noida factory. And the experience is varied. The atmospheres, the bureaucracy, the support from the government, everything, right from the center and right at the state level. Both the governments are very, 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 very supportive. Sushil ji is there from the center and Anurag ji is there from the state. We get all kind of a support from MeitY also, and we get all kind of a support from the state also. I just to mention out here, I was talking to Mr. Anurag just last week, and I said, who is the point of contact in UP? He said, I am your point of contact. So that is the kind of a response you have from the state. And when a principal secretary kind of a level guy is talking like that, you get a lot of support. You get a lot of energy there. So there is always support in terms of all kind of incentives. There is all kind of a support in terms of the people management. There is all kind of a support in terms of the infrastructure and support also. So I think as far as the UP is concerned, we are fully satisfied, and we intend to have our mother factory in the UP. And when I say mother factory, so we want to have a large factory wherein we invite all our joint venture partners also in that particular factory. We have the components PLI also. We have we'll have component factories also. So it is going to be an integrated kind of a factory wherein we are going to assemble the not only the mobiles but also the IT, also the component, also the servers. So it is going to be a complete end-to-end kind of a business model.
Thanks, Mr. Agarwal. Let me go to Mr. Pankaj Mohindroo, the chairman of the India Cellular and Electronics Association. So you've been sort of looking at this from the industry body point of view and working with different state governments and the central government. So we looked at the positive aspects. But what are the friction points that prevent, say, value addition in going beyond assembly of products? When you look at, say, when you want to scale up and look and invest in different states, what are the sort of friction points in your view that we still need to address as a country or in the states? Is it tariffs? Is it inversions, capex, risk, scale, technological access? What in your view is the real issue?
Since I'm in money control, if somebody asks me, will you go short on UP or long on UP? My answer is I'll go long on UP. Right? And you've been asking this question like what Anurag ji said, that you've been asking these questions to everybody. You see, for us, developing UP is a national compulsion. It's a national project. So, and as my colleague Rajesh was saying, despite many fault lines, you see things are clicking in place. And the first important thing is the enthusiastic mindset. And there is a feeling of the chill factor is much lower now. It's very difficult to define the chill factor, but there was a chill factor, as far as India is concerned, as far as UP is concerned, there was a bigger chill factor. That is, drastically reduced.
So I
Now,
think,
sorry, please. So that's on a very broader side, at a very strategic side. Now, what has to be done? I think this is one industry. You are very laudatory about the government and all that, but I think the core of every industry are the entrepreneurs and the companies who risk their capital. Because it is the fundamental responsibility of the government to do what it is doing. It is the risk capital, it's the risk ability, which is one which has to be, cherished the most. And I think media must understand that. I'm sort of sermonizing the media, but, when we have these workshops, etc., if you see the last 40 years of speeches of our apex chambers, and you take out something from 1987, you'll think that the government is doing a fantastic job. Everybody says the same thing repeatedly. So I think we must change that. Get very honest, and
so let me ask you that when we are honest with government, in your experience, with the central government and with state governments like in UP, how well is that honest feedback taken?
Very positive. And that is a big error, big mistake, which is pervasive, I think also created by media, that this is a government which is not it's not open to criticism. The criticism has to be very forthright, very, and it has to be with a solution. That's what Anurag was telling us again and again, that, tell us what to do, tell us what to do. Because we were going through the whole 9 yards, but he was saying, tell us what to do. What is the prescription? How can we improve? Now, let's come to the core electronics and this thing. First of all, मैं यूपी में हूं तो हमें अपनी औकात पहचाननी चाहिए. सबसे जरूरी वो होता है. India's core strength is our manpower cost and our demographic dividend. तो हमें दुनिया में जितनी चीजें असेंबल हो सकती हैं वो खूब अच्छी तरीके से असेंबल करनी चाहिए. Our problem is that we do a lot of mental masturbation and we run ahead of ourselves as a country. कि ये हो गया तो ये क्यों नहीं हुआ, ये क्यों नहीं हुआ. So पहले सारी.
I'm just wondering that I'm wondering how blunt you are in private, seeing how blunt you are in public. So.
No, this is private only. I mean, this is when you are in your nation, when you are at any forum, because all of mankind is actually one organism, so we have to be candid. So we must assemble everything under the sun, right? And export it to the rest of the world. Our biggest fault line is that we are very inward looking. Our merchandise exports are very small. So we have to change that situation. Second is GVCs, global value chains, जो कि जैसे Apple है या Dell है या Nike है. These people control 70 to 90% of the global trade. So to give the best environment to them is very important to build the industry.
Just hold that thought and let me bring in Mr. Manish Gupta, who's the Director, Academics and Senior Professor at Kaushalya University, also involved in skill development and advising the various governments. I think Mr. Mohindroo spoke about going long in UP and about the chill factor going away and so on and so forth. But there's also a demographic issue, right? And there's also an issue of skilling. And so how do you see that being addressed? Because if you're going to work on scale in the way that Mr. Mohindroo has outlined, you really need a skill enhancement and there's a skill gap. How do we fill that?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much, Moneycontrol and CNBC team for inviting me, because Lucknow is my Janm Bhumi and Gujarat has been my Karm Bhumi for 18 years. So it's really a very nice moment for me. Now, having said that, I see there are two very positive things in UP. Number one, I have seen especially in UP, Bihar and Purvanchal area, the youth is really having a lot of desire to do something big, So that is something that we can, actually capitalize that thing, If you give them an ecosystem or environment, they can do a lot of greater things, okay? And second thing is that there are so many science, because you see, whenever we want to develop any ecosystem of innovation, science has to be the first, because whenever we want to do anything in the semiconductor, science is very important. Science gives you technology, technology gives you business, and that creates the ecosystem. And that is the way, you can actually create a $1 trillion economy very faster when you do the technology development using science, And so that is really very, very important thing. So I think in that sense also, UP have found many people, especially in science, because there are very good universities in science, If you take people from physics or math or whatever background, or biology, and we can build a lot of great things from here. So I think the vision of Honorable
So
Prime
let me
Minister.
ask you something. One of the things that the Prime Minister has really been pushing on skilling is in the new education policy. Also now he's talking about the idea of leaving the cobwebs of Macaulay behind and all of that.
Right.
And one of the big issues about education on skilling in particular in manufacturing is about skilling in the local language.
Correct.
So how do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, so
अंग्रेजी में तो हो जाता है, but हिंदी में कैसे होगा?
Yes, ये तो है. हिंदी में actually NEP जो है, NEP में तो इसका बाकी प्रावधान है कि that you can do things in Hindi and also together with science, I mean English also, so that you can, because you need to be competitive internationally also. एक चीज आपको ध्यान देनी होगी कि what we need actually more and more product universities. We want people to fail. They do innovation and they fail actually, because that is not taught in our education system, right? Throughout India. That we don't allow them to fail. Okay, failure means, okay, that's very bad thing. I always go in the class and say that you fail, okay, dikhao. And then you convert, right? And that is something, a very, very important thing among the youth. That
So we're going to ask Mr. Agarwal on how willing he is to hire people who are failing, but we'll come to that in a second. I want to ask Mr. Sushil Pal, so at a larger, because you were looking at this from a macro perspective and dealing with different states. So in terms of an approach, should we be looking at identifying certain national champions, or are we looking at a much wider mid-level, much wider base of companies? What is the kind of driving impulse and the strategic direction that you guys are working with at the central level?
I think there is space for both the bigger, which is we call national champions, as well as the MSME players. I think one of the most fundamental elements of electronic industry is that, for this to become sustainable or to be efficient, to survive, I think you need that scale. That scale is important. So maybe you need certain national champions in certain segments where scale matters matters the most, right? But then there are different kinds of, there are different types of components which have, or products which have different challenges, right? So some have a scale issues, which are not so capital intensive. Some have a capital issue, some have technology issues. But definitely, so at the top, yes, I think you need national champions for sure. But then there is definitely a lot of scope for the MSME players which can form a part of the supply chain, which can actually feed those national champions. So when to the point of the GVC which Pankaj was making, actually, I think one of our vision is actually also to increase our share, India's share in the GVC trade. I think presently it's less than 1%. We definitely want to increase it to 5% and more. But these MSME players actually can become, if they are here, they would be national champions, right, for sure. But then the MSME players, they can become a part of the global value chain. They can integrate more with them. And this we see as we speak, this we see happening. And as the supply chain is being built up for most of the champions which we are witnessing at present.
So we've seen a lot of movement in this sector with a lot of serious policy moves led by the Prime Minister himself directly on the last, say, a year and a half, 2 years. It's been accelerated after the Trump tariffs, largely because of issues around sovereignty and so on. There's a lot of movement around the semiconductor mission and all of those things. So if you sort of look at the next 12 to 18 months, what are the next big things on the horizon from where you sit?
Next, I don't think there'll be anything which big in next 12 months. I think the bigger thing next. What I see is definitely the ISM 2.0 that should be coming, which should be the one big thing. And I definitely hope that the tariff issues will get over, by the US. That should be one other big thing. And as we hear the government spokesperson speak, and they should be, maybe by the early next year, by the end of this year. So,
Mr. Yadav, the similar question to you that, we've seen the big investment from HCL, Foxconn, which is, I think the land issues have now been sorted out. Next 2-3 months, we should see the project being starting off. What are the big anchor investors you're looking at over the next, say, 15 to 18 months? What's on the anvil now?
So as an officer, for me, naming companies, I would believe, is not something which is a right way to say. What I'd say is, the larger issue which you posed is how we place our strategy, whether we are banking on a large, big corporation driving it, or the MSMEs, or the smaller units. So for a scale of a country like India, or for a scale of a state like UP, as my colleague from Government of India suggested, we require both, not just because there is a space for them, or there is a space for both of them, but also because, see, we are a country which needs not only growth and scale, but also employment. If you look at our PLIs, they have a linkage to employment generation as well. So we are just not looking for income generation for few corporations. What we are looking at, what will this growth drive? Will this growth be with equity? Will it reach to each household? And how do you mix that? So these policy choices are probably driven, and if you ask me from the state side, I do see role for both of them, because one is required for the growth and another is required for employability. Obviously, the big corporation will employ much bigger population, but at the same time, the ecosystem needs to be built up around those smaller units as well, which will employ much larger populace. So there is a scope for that. And to answer the question already, just a quick sum up on that. UP government cabinet has already sanctioned more than almost 30,000 crores investment proposals are already with us, and we are awaiting Semicon 2. I believe the moment that policy is done with Government of India, we will have much more bigger investments apart from the Foxconn as far as the semiconductor mission is concerned. Just one more point to add what you asked about the skilling. That's very important, but probably now with the technology we are able to solve that, because technology today with AR, VR and language provides you a solution which goes beyond the barrier of a particular language. So today everybody operates mobile without knowing English. What you require for a training is a functional skill. And functional skill can be easily imparted through technology now. Technology itself is facilitating that. So I don't see UP having any disadvantage for being a Hindi state, because the technology today facilitates automatically. Everybody gets a very routine translation immediately, but not only the translation, other parts also. So I believe we are now poised to take a takeoff stage is there, and hopefully we all would see that journey. Maybe when next year we will be sitting here, you will see that much more has happened on this route. Thank you.
Let me take this question to Mr. Agarwal, who's waiting patiently in Chennai. Mr. Agarwal, couple of questions to you. One is, if you can respond to what Mr. Yadav was talking about, that language is no longer a barrier because of technology in terms of skilling. What is your view on that? The second is that you mentioned your various investments in different states, right? You preside over a large portfolio. How much of that is in UP, and how do you see that growing, and what's your outlook over the next couple of years in terms of your investments? 30,000 crores of investments are lined up in UP. How much of that is going to be from your end?
So I will answer this question in two parts. First was scaling. See, ultimately, as far as the scaling is concerned, so Nalini, you would appreciate, हमारी कंट्री में एक तरफ अर्जुन भी है और एक तरफ एकलव्य भी है. So ultimately, as far as the scaling is concerned, education really helps, but education is not the only key driver. See, we have a factory in Bihar also which is into ethanol business. See, and that factory, most of the people working there are maybe under 12th grade or something. But the kind of competence level or skill level which I see in them, and especially in the Bihar and UP also, is amazing. Trust me, I mean, basically the kind. I just give you one example also. My PA also, he joined me as a delivery boy maybe some 10 years back, and today he does everything on the computer also, mobile also, everything. He writes mails also, he does work on the Excel sheet also, and everything. So my point, as far as the skilling is concerned, as far as the skill set is concerned, education really helps, no doubt about it. But besides education or besides language is not the barrier. Whether it is Hindi speaking or whether it is English speaking, so it doesn't matter. We have a factory in Hyderabad also, we have a factory in UP also and Bihar also. So language, according to me, is not a barrier. Most of the even the key business profile people, so probably speaks Hindi and they does very well. So ultimately, as far as the language is concerned, so that's fine with me. And as far as the investment in UP is concerned, we have factories in 5 states today. UP is now the mother factory, as I said. We are going to invest UP in a big way. Today, as Mr. Anurag said, I mean, basically out of 30,000 crores, so probably I can proudly say that 5% also belongs to us. But going forward, we are going to invest around 3 to 5,000 crores in next three years. So that's the business plan that we have. And I'm sure, I mean, basically most of the business plans in and around the mobile, IT and the other segments, plus the components, UP is going to be our key driver, and UP is going to be the key state where we are going to invest.
Thanks very much. Mr. Mohindroo, if I can bring you in on a larger debate around PLIs, right? So there's a Raghuram Rajan argument, for example, that if we have so much of production-linked incentives, are we really adding value and so on? And what should be the right threshold for that? So a question to you is that what should be the right kind of value addition markup that we should aim at? What is realistic, say, in the next 5 years? Where do you see that being by 2030 in the electronics sector in India?
So my favorite question these days is, and I like to ask the audience, what is the import of electronics in China? This is a question I ask everybody. The answer is $700 billion. That's the amount of electronics which China imports. But they export almost $1 trillion. I would like to be in that situation, that our import goes up, but our export goes up much faster. I think we'll get to a value addition of between 30 to 70% depending on the products. Because the foundational industries are coming up now, cells, semiconductors, packing, but the 3 nanometer, 5 nanometer, which is the smartphone one, is not going to happen. But the middle, which is what has happened with the ECMS, by another 3 to 4 years, we'll have a giant sub-assembly and component industry in the middle. So that will make us very competitive, because the 3 lack of competitiveness is the bill of material, where you see, because you already have an ecosystem in China and Vietnam, we have a disadvantage. Then on capital cost, we have some disadvantage, and we have some disadvantage on the interest cost. But for UP, I like to give 2 specific recommendations. And for the Honorable Minister also, that one of the biggest weaknesses of UP is that UP leaders and bureaucrats do not travel for, getting investment out compared to the other states. And
so you like to see more road shows for investment? And
I've been saying that now for the last maybe 38 years. First time I told Mr. N.D. Tiwari, so he very jokingly said, "Hum sab hamare paas aate hain." Although he was a fantastic chief minister, but I think that is a structural.
So you'd like to see Yogi ji travel more?
I think the leaders in bureaucracy and the political leaders should also travel more and attract investment, because अब कुछ दिखाने वाला है, दिखाने के लिए है. Second thing is, there used to be a question asked. You said after 2 years, what should be the question? We used to ask, who's manufacturing in India? Right? This is 10 years back. Now the question is, who is not manufacturing in India? So similar question should be for UP also. You know, our first should be how many GVCs are manufacturing in UP and how many are exporting out of this. And over the next 10 years, we should have all the global GVCs of the world having a base here and exporting out of UP. That will be the true success.
I think that's a very interesting point. And Mr. Yadav, since we're the panel on UP, final words on you, any response to what Mr. Mohindroo just said?
I mean, I think he has put in things on the right perspective that there is a time now where we should see who is not here and we should invite them. We should see that, everybody, the way he's suggested, not only in electronics, but global supply chain GVCs. So whether it is textile, for example, Noida has a big segment of textiles also. So UP has a potential, as we say that it's like the 5th largest nation on the world atlas, if you see, as a nation. And we have that potential for each sector to, and we have that strength of having such human resource. So I completely agree and align with what he has suggested. And I can only reassure that, yes, we have taken stock of these situations. We understand it. We have now a dedicated Invest UP program who do all kind of reach out. Even, for example, tomorrow they are having another program related to electronic manufacturing. So I'm just saying that government has probably appreciated the feedback,
right,
and we are working on that.
Right. Mr. Mohindroo, we have only 30 seconds left,
Yes,
so quick
yes.
final comments.
So on Raghuram, you know, वो IIT में भी बहुत ज्ञान देते थे. So in fact, his seniors invited me over. He said we have to rag this one guy. You know, so he starts giving too much gyan. So, but on a very serious note, all of government in India, which is the state government, central government and the local bodies, spend 100 lakh crores a year. That is what we spend. 100 lakh crores. Now we want manufacturing to be 25% of the GDP. So the simple arithmetic is, that is the kind of investment
right,
you need to do in manufacturing. It's
right,
simple arithmetic. Raghuram or no Raghuram.
Mr. Agarwal, final comment to you, final word to you, because I see you raising your hand from Chennai.
See, one of the big change I think, Nalin, is today, as far as the industry is concerned, industry is also putting the country first kind of approach. Instead of only making money kind of a thing, everybody is saying, if the country is growing, if the country is progressing, everybody is going to grow. So the approach of the industry is the country first. So that is the big change which has come into the country. I think I appreciate that from the government point of view.
And that's a lovely note to end on, country first. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand to this illustrious panel.